Thank you so much for coming this evening. As you know, you're here for such important topics. I can't say enough how grateful we are to have our presenters here this evening. But before I bring them on stage, I would like to acknowledge a few people who have been really great at helping, and one of them who just ran to the back room, you know her. We can clap as soon as she walks in. I think she ran with her little water container, but that's Stephanie Torini, and she is our Neighborhood Watch Coordinator. And so when you're ready to have your Neighborhood Watch meeting in your neighborhood, please, okay, we're going to give her a hand. Yay! Stephanie Torini, I'm introducing you. Let me know, give Stephanie a call, or email us, and she'd be glad to set something up. Of course, I also have Farry Aberg, one of your peers, block leader, longtime block leader. Farry, where are you? If you want to give a wave, there she is. Always helping out at the front. Thank you, Farry. I also wanted to acknowledge Brian Babcock. He's our supervisor. He's in the back standing by Stephanie. He is our communication officer. So Brian, if you want to give a wave. And I also wanted to let you know that we have two important dates coming up. On March 12th, Stephanie and I are going to be holding an open house for block parties. We'll have a morning session and an afternoon, late afternoon, evening session where you can come by, check out some of the equipment that might be available when you have your block parties, ask any questions. We can walk through an application with you. If you have any friends on adjacent streets who may be interested in having a block party, send them on over. It's an open house, because it seems like, no matter, there's always some good energy, and there's always information sharing with block parties. And so every year I pick up new tips from what you give me, and I'm glad to give them back out to whoever it is that wants any suggestions or any more information. So we're doing it this way. So March 12th, you will get an email about that. And also April 30th, we have our annual Block Leader Appreciation, and we are celebrating our 18th year. Can you believe that? Wow. And yes, I've been here for 18 years, for those of you who don't already know. Thank you. Thank you. And longer, for those of you who've known me before that. So that's it for the dates. I want to introduce our first presenter, but I did want to talk to you a little bit about our community. As you know, we have an aging community, and for those of you who have been following the Block Leader program for quite some time, let's say 18 years, either you've noticed that our community is aging, or maybe you're among the demographic we're talking about. And I, for one, yes, I can, I participated in the senior center, and I am in that demographic. So, we are talking about helping our senior neighbors tonight. And for the past couple of meetings, several of you who have come forward and talking amongst themselves and sharing how you help your neighbors, whether it be computer-related issues or helping them with newspapers or some of the things, more neighborly things that you could do for your senior neighbors. But we wanted to bring an expert, and her name is Vivian Silva. Vivian is a case manager at our Cupertino Senior Center across the park, and she is also leading a monthly caregiver support group. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vivian Silva.
It's on? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Portuguese. I came from a loud family. I really don't need this, but I will use it. I want to say before I start, I only have like 20 minutes, so I have to talk fast, and I talk fast normally, but I want you to get some good information to take home with you for your neighbors or friends of yours in Cupertino. But I want to say what an amazing group of people. I just recently heard about this group. I was so impressed. I also work part-time for another city, and I went back to my boss and said, do you know what Cupertino has? And then I thought I heard, okay, so I'm a senior. You only have to be 50 to go to the senior center. But I went back to my boss, and I thought I heard Laura say she had 200 in her group, leaders. And then when I told her, oh, how many out of the 200 are coming? And she goes, no, Vivian, we have 380. And I went, what? That's amazing. So I think you should clap for each other at your table. You should just give each other. That is wonderful. It's a beautiful program. I'm so impressed and in awe. So there are some caregiver support group flyers on the table. If you're interested, or if you run across a neighbor who seems stressed, because caregiving is stressful, but they have to be caring for an older adult. So this isn't for teens or children. And I have had, people come in that are caring for their children, thinking that because they're a caregiver, but it's for seniors. You don't have to be a senior to come to my group, but you do have to be a senior that they're caring for. And it's free, okay? There's no charge. And it's once a month. So take a flyer with you and just put it in a folder. If you don't have any use for it now, you may down the road. The second handout that I have for you is a resource, and I decided to pick maybe top few resources that we get a lot of questions about. I worked at the senior center in the 90s, from 92 to 2000, when I was in my 40s. And it was my first job after 17 years of raising my 2 sons. And resources change. And so I made some calls to make sure that these resources I typed on here would be current numbers, because things happen really fast in service industry in our county. Now, the number one issue people come for is not on here, and that's housing. And fortunately, the people you're working with are in homes, right? So that's why housing is not on here. So I will do that, and then I will give you a little tip on connecting with the people that you knock on doors with and talk to, and maybe you're hoping to build the trust. But I can tell you, if they're older adults, sometimes it takes a long time to build the trust, depending on what went on in their life. So the first resource I have here is the 911. If any of your neighbors seem to be in a life-threatening situation, that's just common knowledge. And I did bring a whole bunch of those blue life, they're called life files. And it used to be that a container Stanford and El Camino had, you put in your refrigerator. But when the paramedics went out there, sometimes it wasn't on the shelf it was supposed to be on, or there was so much food that it got buried. So they came up with this brilliant idea to just put it to the front of the refrigerator. So Stephanie, can you hold one up so they can see what I'm talking about? You see that? So if you have allergies, and you can even use one for yourself, really, if you've never seen these. You put your emergency contact, what you might be allergic to, so they don't give you something that could kill you. So please take what you'd like, and if you need more, we will have them at the senior center and the sheriff's department, maybe at the fire stations, or not sure. You could get others if you need them, but they're amazing. But I wanted to, the first resource is also Adult Protective Service. So if you're 65 and older and someone is being abused, or you suspect, you are a mandated reporter. You may not know that, but if you're providing service to an elder, which you are a mandated reporter. So there's a number here to call Adult Protective Service, and you just give them the scenario. It's confidential. You don't have to give your name, and just report what you have suspicions of. It doesn't mean the problem would get solved, but at least you're doing what you need to do. So that is on there, and and their phone number for you. And then I have the senior center on there because that's where there's another care manager who's full-time, I'm part-time, and we both have offices at the senior center. And I have worked, well, like I said, in the 90s, I remember going to Chateau Cupertino, and this lady was isolating herself. I said, oh, you should come to the senior center. There's so much going on. She was 90, and she goes, I don't want to be with those old people. And I go, but you'd be surprised. You only have to be 50 to go to a senior center, and you know what? There's some of them that probably love the same things you do. So give it a try. So you know what she did? And I said, you can go gently. You know, it's like high school where you don't want to be left out and everybody has their little groups. So I said, we have a nice patio. Go sit bring a book. What do you like to do? Crochet or knit or read? Bring something and sit outside and enjoy Memorial Park. And she did. And I said, and I won't act like I know you. You know, but you can wave at me. And so she did, and it was wonderful. She loved it. So the senior center has activities, trips, socialization, which I also teach at San Jose State part-time on aging. And this is the #1 topic of research, is isolation. So we try not to let that happen to the seniors. We know through the senior center that they don't isolate themselves. Sometimes when people don't feel well or something happens, they go inward, but that can lead to depression, could lead to death. So there's a lot of research being done on it if you want to look and Google some information. It's very powerful how detrimental to our health isolation is. In fact, they say that the research shows, not having one person to talk to, and not just one confidant is as bad for your health as smoking and obesity. So this is why researchers in gerontology are looking at this. It's a social problem, and the recent article I read said it's not just elders. We think it could be. It's all the generations. We are in a society right now in our country of isolation. So, and students I know that are getting very depressed. So we have to really be mindful of that. And you do already probably make such a difference in so many people's lives. I'm going to tell you Meals on Wheels, and that's on here. There's hot meals and there's frozen meals, 2 different agencies. A lot of people don't know that, if people need to eat. Transportation, I have a list of some agencies that provide transportation with the phone numbers or website. So this is just a 1 sheet minimum. Believe me, there's so many resources out there. It's amazing. So if you ever want to come in and talk to me or Adriana and you're looking for a specific resource, I also have 211 on here because they're a great resource in our county for any kind of information needed. So let's go into the tip, and then I'm going to talk about care management or case management and tell you what we do in case you need to contact us or you want to tell the person you're working with, the elder or their family member who's stressed, taking care of them, what we do. And believe me, Cupertino has had this program, I'm going to say, Kim, over 40 years. And the city I work for asked me to do a pilot program 13 years ago. That's how progressive Cupertino is. That's how Cupertino, really cares about seniors. So that's why I'm happy to be back helping the best I can. So you can get a 3x5 card on your way out that Laura brought. And in the caregiver support groups, and I do a lot of groups there, there's something that I've noticed, especially with women. They don't want to be a burden, and so They tell me that, oh, people will say, oh, I hear your mother's sick, or I'm sorry your husband had a stroke. What can I do? And they'll go, oh, I'm fine. Or, no, it's all taken care of, but it's not. So I started using this 3x5 card that I tell the caregivers, and you, if you notice one, you can, it's a good way even to get a reason to go back and visit that person if you think that they're needing some extra help, is I tell the caregivers, get a 3x5 card. Write just like 3 tasks or 4 tasks that would help you. Is it mowing your lawn? Is it going to pick up groceries? Is it going to the post office to mail something, pick something up? And then when someone says, you know, what's your name? Eric, what can I do to help you? You go, oh, let me get my 3x5 card out. Now, it sounds silly, but it works. You know why? Because this is how you do it. You say, well, I have a few items that I've been thinking I could use some help with. But you know what? You can say no if it doesn't work for you, if you don't have time. But, I need someone to go pick up some cleaning for me. I need them to run an errand. Go pick up some medicine for my husband would be wonderful. But if these things don't work out for you, it's okay. I appreciate you asking. Anybody know why that's a good technique? Amanda? That's right. You're giving them an option to say no and not have you mad at them or not be afraid you're not going to talk to them again because you turned them down when they asked for help. And they don't want to be a burden, most people. And so it also, I hear on the other side, is that they say, oh, I love my neighbor, but I'm afraid if I go get her dinner on Thursday night, every Thursday, I'm going to have to bring her dinner. So they're afraid they're going to get pulled in, not because they're not nice people, but they're overwhelmed maybe in their own lives. And so it's a way to sort of balance, and then people aren't so much afraid to ask again, because they know you know that they can have boundaries. I don't know if that makes sense. I know that it does make sense because people tell me it works for them. So that's why I just gave you the card, so you would be reminded that it's a good way. And then if you knock on a door and you see that a woman is stressed or a male is stressed, believe me, we have more male caregivers in the United States than we've ever had. We're living longer. So women still outlive men, but men are sometimes outliving their spouses. And so they're becoming caregivers, and they weren't raised to be caregivers. They're raised to go out to the workforce, especially in the older generation, like my generation. I was a stay-at-home mom for 17 years, right? So it's just really good to say, oh, it sounds like maybe, or, I'm sorry, I heard that maybe your husband was sick, and or your wife was sick. I'm going to give you this card, and just write maybe 3 or 4 things that would help you, little tasks that you can think of, or a resource you might need. I'll come back in a couple weeks and pick it up. So that's your way back in their home or on the porch with the door open, whatever situation. And then you can say, oh, did you finish your list? And they may not have it ready, but you know what? You've already built a little bit of a relationship. Because a lot of people are very afraid of people knocking on their door. And I don't blame them. I live alone. I don't always open my door. So anyway, that's what the card's about. And take one on the way out. How much time do I have? Enough for care management, I hope? Okay. So what do we do at the senior center? What is a case manager, sometimes called care manager? I like to call it care manager because nobody wants to be a case. Nobody wants to be a case. It's kind of a psychology term, But case manager is what says on our brochure, this little trifold. And it has 2 numbers inside, mine and Adriana's. I'm there Monday, Thursday, Friday. She's there 5 days a week. So if you have any questions, please call us. There's no charge. We're available to the community, and we get lots of drop-ins. So care management has 5 components. First, we do an assessment. We do home visits. So an assessment is we have a form, we have questions we ask, but believe me, I've been doing this. I started in Cupertino as a care manager. I didn't know what care management was, case management, but I learned. And I learned gentle ways of asking people personal questions. And one of the things is you don't ask about finances the first thing. You wait until the end when they begin to trust you, and then you might say, you know, can you tell me a rough estimate of how much you have monthly to spend? Because some resources are free, some cost money, and it helps me figure out how to help you. And then they trust me and they tell me, because that's the best way to help them, is to honor their privacy, but yet explain why it's important for them to share at least an estimate. So I don't waste their time, you know, in telling them something that's helpful that they can't afford, if that makes sense. Okay, so we do an assessment, but believe me, we cannot go into someone's home unless they give us permission. A daughter may say, can you come and see my mom? And I said, does she want to see me? Did you talk to her about it? Because if she's going to be our client, she has to be able to want to see me. Now, if she has dementia or Alzheimer's, which happens often, Alzheimer's is a type of dementia where they may not be able to communicate, but if, you know, they have the power of attorney, we can go in and help them. And sometimes we can go in anyway because, you know, the daughter says, I don't know what to do. This is, my mom's doing this, and I'm afraid for her. So we would probably just go in and not talk to the mom, but at least observe and see what's going on in the home. So we do our assessment, and out of the assessment and our expertise, our training, our experience really, then we come up with a care plan. The care plan. Oh, you don't cook anymore because it's hard to stand up for too long? Do you know about Meals on Wheels? And I bet you're thinking, I wouldn't want Meals on Wheels. I hear it's terrible. Yeah, sometimes it is, is what I hear too. But there's 2. There's frozen, which can be free, and there's hot meals, which the Health Trust has, which are $8 a meal. And those might be better, I don't know. But I tell people, what's the option you have? What's the option? I don't want you to starve to death, right? So let's give it a try. If it doesn't work out after, let's say, a month, then you can cancel. It's your life, not mine. You have a right to say no. Unless you're deemed incompetent by a judge, you have a right to say no. So after the care plan, they say, no, Vivian, I really don't want Meals on Wheels. Then we move on to the next item. Well, how about a caregiver? Or how about a handyman or a handy woman that can come and tidy up for you? And then we try to do the best we can to match them to the right place. And we always give, as social workers, you have to give 3 resources to let them choose. We don't choose for you, right? So that's the care plan. And then it goes into place. If they live alone and they have a hearing problem and they refuse a hearing aid, they go, I can't use the phone anymore. And then I can make the call for them, like to, let's say to Meals on Wheels. I will call, set it up. Or a family member or a neighbor, or maybe even you would set it up. Just make the call. Can you send out some meals, or can you call this lady or gentleman and talk to them about your program? And so that's the third, is the linkage to services. And then, as the care managers, let's say 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later, I want to know how the Meals on Wheels turned out. Do they like it? Do they not? And is the driver respectful? Or does the driver just, toss the meals on the porch and doesn't care? I want to know that. I'm their advocate. So I'd say, how's it going? Or is the housekeeper coming when she's supposed to? Or did you go and see the doctor and have your eyes examined? So we follow up. We monitor those services. And then after things are settled, then we may call them 3 weeks later, a month later, and if things are stable and things are fine and they don't need us, or they move out of Cupertino, or they're in a nursing home, then we have to close them as a client. So, any questions? Do they have time for a couple questions? You're afraid? Oh dear. I hear you're a talkative group. No, that's okay. She's going to have me back when I'm not so time crunched, and I'm so sorry if I sound rushed. A little nervous because I'm a talker, so I was trying not to talk too much. Sorry.
Thank you. No,
okay.
It. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vivian. So if there's interest in having a session to continue what we've already started, please send me an email, okay, so we can start programming. All right, so thank you again, Vivian Silva. You ready, Captain? Every year we ask the Sheriff's Department to come, or Sheriff's Office to come and present, and they always do, and they always do a bang-up job. Yay. So this is really, really important, and it's about staying focused and informed during critical incidents. So I'd like to welcome Captain Urena, and you know him. Welcome him back. He's coming. And he's going to introduce Sergeant Jim Post, who you may already know as an SRO in the past. Thank you.
Good evening. How's everyone doing today? How's my volume, by the way? You hear me back there? We're good? Okay. So, first of all, I want to thank Laura and Stephanie in the city of Cupertino for allowing us to be here today. I want to thank every single one of you in this room for being part of this awesome community. This is one of my favorite meetings of the year when I'm invited. Those of you that don't know me, I'm Captain Rich Urena. I lead the men and women of the Sheriff's Office who provide services to the city of Cupertino. And so every deputy that's out there driving around doing the fine work that they do, I'm kind of responsible for them. So I value any opinion that you have, good or bad. So feel free to catch me on your way out. With that being said, before I introduce Sergeant Post, I do want to kind of set the tone here for this conversation. It is a very difficult conversation. You cannot watch the news. You cannot open the newspaper without seeing something about an active shooter, a shooting. We just saw this yesterday in Seattle, right? Downtown. It's unfortunate that we have to talk about this, but I think that knowledge, knowing things, empowers us, right? And so our purpose here today is to give you an overview of what we're doing in terms of active shooter. And so with that being said, we're going to talk about active shooter, provide an overview on what is an active shooter. So the term active shooter is used just about for anything where there's a shooting. You know, you hear it all the time, active shooter. Oh, we had an active shooter here, we had an active shooter there. But what is an active shooter? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Potential neighborhood impacts. Okay, so if we have an active shooter and for whatever reason that leads into my neighborhood, you know, what should I do? Right? I mean, those are questions that we want to know, that I would want to know in my neighborhood. And so we're going to talk about that. How residents can safely help law enforcement. So you play a role. okay? You play a role. And then staying informed during a critical incident in your neighborhood. How do we do that? How do we stay informed about any and all news related to our neighborhood when it comes to critical incidents? We'll talk about that. Gentleman to my right, Sergeant James Post, has been with the Sheriff's Office with 23 years or so. He started his career like many of us, working in the Court Security Division, patrol, you name it. He is responsible, I would say, probably for about 90% of the deputies you see out on the streets right now, because he spent the majority of his time, well, I shouldn't say majority, a few years in recruiting and backgrounds. That's the unit that hires people, right, that does a background, that kind of thing. The other part of his career he spent working in and around the city of Cupertino. He's very familiar with the neighborhoods, this area. He currently works as a supervisor during these swing shift hours. And we're very fortunate to have him working here in Cupertino again, because he has taught this subject, active shooter, to, I would say, thousands of people throughout his career already. And he has a very unique experience that not many of us have. And so with that being said, I'd like to introduce Sergeant James Post.
Awesome. Good evening. I learned something new today. I found out, I was talking with Stephanie, I actually qualify for the senior center. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess good. I have options now. Saturday night, not doing anything, I'll sign up for the senior. I did not know that, but I qualify. So like the captain was saying, we're going to do it real briefly and talk about what an active shooter is. I usually do a presentation that takes an hour and a half to 2 hours of what do we do in the event of an active shooter. Tonight, it's not really about that, but we're going to go a brief overview and kind of go through what the steps, what we need to do. But even more important, I'm going to show you a video of what we're going out into our communities, not just Cupertino, but county-wide, and what we're teaching people. This is what you need to do during an active shooter. We go to businesses, schools, churches, other places of worship, city employees. We're teaching everyone. And it'll all tie together why it's important for you to know what we're teaching people. Then you'll know kind of what to expect. If you see a bunch of people running down your neighborhood that look terrified, it'll make more sense. So let's kind of, this is actually Homeland Security's definition of an active shooter. An active shooter is a subject or subjects actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a confined and populated area. Active shooters primarily use firearms, and there is no pattern or method to their selection of victims. So that's Homeland Security's definition. One of the things that we're starting to see, what's kind of a trend, is that right there where it said, the last sentence, active shooters primarily use firearms. We're starting to see a trend of something else. And I only bring this up not to terrify everyone and everyone to be afraid when you're out, but it's something to think of. What are we starting to see more of? It's more in the East Coast. We see it in Europe. We're finally starting to see it. It's kind of making its way around this way. We had one in Sunnyvale. What did they use? Car. So when you're in a public event that has access to vehicles, just kind of keep that in mind. They're using cars, because everyone has access to a car. Cars. Active shooters, they're unpredictable. They evolve quickly, continue until stopped by law enforcement, suicide, or other intervention. What do you think I mean by other intervention? I'm sorry? Someone takes them down, like you, the victim. Absolutely. So the FBI just did a study. 1/3 of all active shooters are stopped by you. And I was shocked by that number. I didn't know it was so high. That's a pretty high number. Also, if you have questions during this, just get my attention. You don't have to, you can raise your hand or hey, or whatever, and we'll answer as we go along, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a video. This video was produced by the city of Houston using a Homeland Security grant. And the name of it is, and this is what we teach, and this is what we're teaching nationwide. And like I was saying earlier, it's important for you to know, in case you see some of these actions happening in your neighborhood, what these people are doing. And it's called Run, Hide, Fight. And if you think about it, during an active shooter event, you really will only have 3 options. You can run from it, you can hide from it, or you can fight. You might do 2 of them, you might do 3 of them, you might only do 1 of them. But those are really your only 3 options. So we'll watch the video, and it's about a 2-minute video.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly.
ice and get my back.
The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay, any questions about that video? Yes? Yes, it is. So go on YouTube and just look up, it's a little complicated, look up run, hide, fight. Yeah, you just look up run, hide, fight, and it'll pull up that video. And there's other videos that are like this. The question was, where can I find this video online? And I strongly suggest if you have family members or whatever, have them watch this video. It's not that long of a video, and it's full of information. Full of information. Yes? Okay, the question was, what can you do if you have a lot of kids and they're screaming and they're crying and they're afraid? And are you talking like school level, or if you're a parent with like 3 or 4 kids, or what are we talking? My suggestion, what I always tell schools and what I've always taught schools, and I taught many classes in school, it all depends how old they are. If they can run, they're probably going to outrun you. But if they can't run and they're too young, it's time to hide. Then we use the hide option. We find somewhere where we can hide inside that room and barricade the door, and we wait for help. We wait for help. And what everyone needs to realize too, I don't know if we covered in this other part, and just so you know, we train on this. In law enforcement, we train to respond to active shooter. This is the only type of call where time is not on our side. Every other call, we could slow it down, come up with the best idea. Active shooter is the only one we will go in with 0 information, and we're going to try to stop this person. We will stop this person from making more casualties and more victims. Yes? Yes. So if you call 911, we can actually find your location. Especially with the iPhone, they have this new technology where we can pinpoint you. But with other ones too, we can do it off the towers. Know this too, we're going to cover this. You can also text now. Our dispatchers have if you text 911, they will be able to get your text message. Yes? The question was, does it have to be a 408 to go to our dispatcher? And the answer is no. How 911 works, it actually goes off cell towers. That's how it knows which agency to send. It doesn't go by area codes. It goes off by the area you're in. Okay. Okay, that was 2015, that was 5 years ago. Do I have any tech people here? Things are ever changing. It's different now. So before, when you would call on your cell phone, it would actually go to CHP. CHP, because, long story short, when cell phones first became popular, CHP said, it's not like everyone's going to own a cell phone, so we'll take all the 911 calls. Well, what happened? Everyone owns like 2 or 3 cell phones now. And they just got inundated and they couldn't put up with it. So now it's a responsibility of all the different, and with the technology that's always changing, they're able to pinpoint it just off the cell towers. So area code doesn't matter. Now, sometimes when you're right on the border, say you're on Homestead, where this side of the street is Sunnyvale and this side of the street is Cupertino, It might go wherever it goes, though. They're going to route you to the right place. So if you're actually calling from Cupertino, but that cell tower, for whatever reason, says, hey, you're in Cupertino or vice versa, they will route it. We have a direct connection between our dispatchers. That happens a lot. They know how to deal with it, and it's routed. Nothing. So the question was, and that's good advice, yes. So say I'm hiding in a closet, and there's an active shooter going on, and I don't want to talk. Or I can't talk because the shooter will hear me. So what she's asking is, should you call 911 and just leave an open line without saying anything? Absolutely. That's better than nothing. At least the dispatcher will pick up and get us that information. Yes. Yes, sir. Landline. Oh, we can, yes. The thing with landline, if you call landline, what I love about landline, as soon as you hit 9-1, as soon as you hit that last one, it doesn't matter if it rings on our end and you hang up. As soon as you hit that one, we have you pinpointed. And that's how come little kids didn't know. We used to get those all the time where they go. I learned this in school, 911, hang up. Knock, knock, knock. Yeah, it's actually easier to pinpoint on a landline. So if you could call from a landline, that's even better. There's no towers it's bouncing off. It's coming straight back to your phone. Okay, so potential neighborhood impact. How's this going to impact your neighborhoods? Okay. Uh-huh. Any means possible. There's not like just one way where they've used one thing. It's all different things. It's from apprehending and holding down all the way to hitting them with a very heavy object. Whatever it takes to stop them, by law, you can stop them. So just so everyone knows that, you're not going to get in trouble if you get a little rough with an active shooter to stop them. Okay, so what he was saying, I didn't know this. The FCC passed a new law where it actually has to give your location for cell phones. Cell phones have to have that capability. We get a lot of 911 cell phones all the time. Every day. Think of how many people have cell phones and accidentally, and those iWatches you bump and calls 911. But yeah, we get pretty much pinpoints them. I'm going to move on so I don't run out of time. And maybe some of these questions you have, I'm probably going to answer. Potential neighborhood impact, how residents can safely help law enforcement. So how is this going to impact you? Say we have an active shooter and you're not involved, but it's in your city. So I have kind of, like the captain said, I have a unique perspective of this. How many of you remember the Lehigh Quarry shooting, that tragedy? So I was the midnight sergeant when that occurred. So I was one of the very first ones in the door and was dealing with the aftermath of trying to locate this person and all that. So I kind of have a different perspective of how it's going to impact you and how it's going to impact the service we're going to provide for you. And that's kind of where I have some of these bullet points that just came off the top of my head, where this is how it's definitely going to impact you if we have an active shooter anywhere in this city. It's going to impact everyone. And some of the impacts, perimeter around your neighborhood will impact entering and leaving the area. So say we have an active shooter, like in the video where people ran out in the streets and the active shooter got away, kind of like at Lehigh, and now we have them spotted in the neighborhood. What we are going to do is we are going to lock down that neighborhood. And what I mean by that is we're going to set up a big perimeter. We do not want this bad person getting out. And the only way we're going to do that is by basically isolating and containing. So how's that going to impact you folks? How do you think that's going to impact you? You got to stay at home. And you're going to be going, I have to go to work. And we're going to, I don't care. Because what is the most important thing right then and there? We're not doing it to be mean. We want to catch this person. You have to know this is the most important thing, that if we have someone that's an imminent danger to the public, we have to do all the resources we have to get that person, and we have to do everything that might inconvenience others, but we're going to do what we have to do to catch this person. And sometimes that means shutting down your roadways and checking all cars. Every time a car stops, we're going to go through it and check to make sure the shooter's not inside your car or snuck in your car. We're not saying you're like driving the bad person away, but we're going to make sure that they didn't sneak in your car or get in your car. We have to check. We don't want you entering a potential dangerous area, and we don't want the suspect, like I said, escaping. You need to be patient. So if it's somewhere where we're going, you know what, it's too dangerous, we don't know where he's at, but he's in this area, we don't want you going in this area. That could happen. De Anza, do you remember when they had that bomb scare at De Anza? I know I look young, but I was working that day when it happened. That was actually my area that I worked. And we set up a big perimeter around the school after we evacuated it, and people were still trying to get in. When we're going, no, we're searching for bombs, it's not safe. I have a final. Yeah, finals have been canceled. You need to, and people were still trying to get in. We were catching people trying to go in because they didn't want to get an F on their final. So I'm telling you, we're going to lock it down for your safety. So, yes. Can you just be patient one more slide? And we will cover it so I don't have to recover it twice. You're welcome. If you need to leave the residence for an emergency, what would you consider some emergency if we have the neighborhood locked down? Huh? Health. If you're having a health emergency, call 911. Let us know so we could maybe escort you out and help you out. What would also be considered an emergency? Huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's an emergency. If the shooter's in your backyard, you definitely leave your house, then call 911. Perfect. What if I live in the neighborhood where it's happening, and I need to get to work to help catch this bad person? So there's real emergencies, and there's ones that aren't so. One is, hey, I'm meeting friends for coffee. That's not an emergency. So there's going to be certain times when we're not going to, it's probably not safe. We have to use our resources. We can't concentrate on those type of things of trying to vet through what's the emergencies and what's not. The way you can help is, unless you have a true emergency, stay put. If it's occurring at nighttime, turn on all exterior lights. Why do you think that's important? Yeah, because we can't see that. We're like anyone else. We don't have special vision. To be able to find those criminals when we're searching, if the lights are on, that's better for us. Okay? So turn on all lights. If you have a home alarm, turn it on with the stay home function. Everyone know what stay home function is? That means you're you're inside for the night and you lock up and you set your alarm. Your sensors won't be on, but it will arm your door and window. So if anyone tries to get in, uh-oh. Impact, response time for calls for service. So say that you live on the other side of town where we're not even locking down the city. What do you think's going to happen to you even if it's on that side? You call up to report, hey, someone stole my bike. Do you think that's going to impact how long it's going to be before we get there? So just realize that. All calls that are not life-threatening or real big-time emergencies, it's going to be a long time before we respond. And I saw this on Lehigh, where people were going, hey, I'm a victim of identity theft. Well, we're using every resource we can to locate someone that just shot and killed a bunch of people, and he's still on the loose, and the threat to him and the public safety is real. So it's not that we don't think that your identity theft or your any other crime like that, theft, isn't important. It is important, but this is more important right now. And that's what we're doing. We're just prioritizing, and we're throwing all the resources we can. So it will impact you. The way you can help is just be patient. Be patient. As soon as we can clear up units, we will get someone there to take what you want to report. It could be an extended period of time. So Lehigh, that kicked off at 4:25 in the morning. Most people don't even know that. They thought it was later because that's when they were impacted. We closed down that whole area around Lehigh when we weren't sure if he was still in that neighborhood. And then when he got away over to Homestead and Wolf, that impacted the entire other side of the city, including Sunnyvale. And we had those streets blocked off, especially on the Sunnyvale side, for over a 24-hour period. So it could be an extended time where it's going to impact service and impact you getting in and out of your neighborhoods. Call 911 to report anything suspicious seen or found. Please, that's the best you can do. If you see something, say something. And I don't really have to tell the people in this room, for what you're doing and what you're volunteering, you're here tonight, you know that. That's how we work. You're the eyes for us. That's how we were able to find our shooter from Lehigh. Someone pretty much reported seeing this person in their neighborhood. We can't be everywhere at once. Don't think, oh, but what if it's not the person, or what if this is not? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. If you see something, report it. The day of Lehigh, we had deputies that were just responsible for answering those calls where someone was reporting something suspicious that had to do with that case. We had a team of deputies. All they did was go around the neighborhood looking for people, responding to those calls when you would call 911 to report someone suspicious. Be vigilant, don't panic. We don't need a panic where people are running through the streets screaming and stuff like that. Like I said, if we think, and we'll get to it on the other slide, if we think you're in immediate danger, we will be there to immediately evacuate you. Okay? Stay informed and communicate. And the way you do that is kind of what you were talking about, which is the Alert SCC. And we're going to talk about that at the end of how you can sign up for it. It has come a long way. I didn't know they had Alert CC back in 2011. Yeah, it's really good now. And we'll talk about that. Some of the other ways we might communicate with you is through a reverse 911. And what that is, and I'm very familiar with that, is we'll tell the dispatcher, hey, send out a message to the neighbors to shelter in place or stay in their houses and lock the doors because there's police activity and it's not safe to go outside. And what that dispatcher could do, they could pick a whole area of where they want to send that. But the problem with that, it only goes to landlines. And if you're like me, because I'm hip and new, I don't have a landline anymore. We all have cell phones. The only one who was calling my landline were telemarketers. So I got rid of it. Did you want to?
I just wanted to touch a little bit on the decision-making process of pushing out information. I think that's a question that's always asked, and that is, there's something going on in my neighborhood. It's a critical incident, something, I want to know what it is. Should I be concerned, right? I mean, that happens in my neighborhood. And so I kind of want to peel back the curtain a little bit and share with you what that looks like. And so certainly for an active shooter, right, once we have enough staff dealing with the immediate issue, we're going to start talking about what message we're going to send to the community, right? And on the one hand, we want to make sure you're informed, but we also don't want you to panic. And so if there is no threat to your neighborhood, We're going to say that. So what happens is, okay, pick any critical incident, active shooter. Deputies are showing up. Everybody's getting together in one general area. The supervisor is determining what we need to do, right? We need to start that perimeter that he mentioned, right? We need to assemble a team of deputies that can start systematically looking at neighborhoods, homes, backyards. While we're doing that, somebody else is going to start working on the message. What are we going to tell the neighborhood? And so that message ultimately gets approved by the supervisor. Depending on the circumstances, I'll approve that message, right? And that message is going to say something like, law enforcement in the area, remain in your home, shelter in place, active shooter, that's happened in the past. So this information is broadcasted to you through Alert SCC, and again, we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. And so there's a process, right? At any point during this conversation of, do we need to send out this message, right? During any type of conversation about what we have in terms of the event, it can change. And so, although you may see 10, 15 patrol cars, a lot of deputies in the area, and you're thinking, why am I not getting informed of what's going on? The reality is, things change so quickly, and this happens all the time where we're getting ready to broadcast a message. Literally, we're just getting ready to hit enter, and we find the guy, or the guy, it's a different guy, different neighborhood, whatever the case may be. That happens all the time. And it takes us anywhere between 15 to about 30 minutes to actually send that message because we have to work with our dispatch. And so I know a lot of times things are occurring in your neighborhood and you're wondering, why am I not being informed? I guarantee you, if it is something you need to know, we will send out that message. We definitely will send out that message. That's one thing we've talked about over and over. It's, hey, if it's going to impact the neighborhood, let's send out that message. But again, we don't want it to be white noise. It's like, okay, here's another message, now what's going on? We really want you to pay attention to these messages. Has anybody ever received any of our Alert SEC messages by any chance? Yeah, just a few of you. Good. Questions on that? Again, I'll talk a little bit about signing up and what it looks like and how the towers work towards the end.
Let's talk about shelter in place. Just kind of briefly, we'll talk about it so you know what we're talking about when we say shelter in place. So if you get the message, we send the message, one of those means the captain was just talking about, to shelter in place, right up there. Shelter in place means finding a safe location in your home and staying there until you are given an all clear. We will give you a second message to let you know it's all clear. What I see happens a lot in these, people will go, hey, you forgot about us. No, we didn't forget about you. When it's all clear, we will let you know it's all clear. You may be asked to shelter in place because of a critical incident in or around your neighborhood. The main thing is to stay calm. Proceed to a location that you can be secured and lock and secure the door. If necessary, for whatever reason, if your door doesn't lock, put something in front of it. Try to barricade that door to keep it from opening. Turn off all interior lights and silence your phones. Wait in the safest location possible until you are given the all clear. And like I was saying earlier, remember, if you don't feel comfortable talking, you can leave an open line like you were talking about, or you can text it. Our dispatchers now have the capability of receiving 911 text messages. Stay inside, lock all doors and windows if alerted through the means the captain was talking about. We will likely be using canines. So if you have any pets, and it's safe to do so, bring all your pets in. Because if we start a yard-to-yard search, and that's just not for active shooter, any police activity we're having, what we try to do before we go in your backyard is we'll come and knock on your door and say, hey, we're going to be in your backyard. Do you mind if I go through the house, or do you want me to go around side? And do you have any pets? The reason we are asking if you have any pets, because we are going to be using canine units, police canines, which are our dogs. The reason we love to use them through those search and how it benefits you is these dogs can find a lot better than we can. It's like almost guaranteed if they go through that backyard and don't find anything, this person is not in your backyard. So if you have all pets and you safely can do so, bring the pets inside. We'll be utilizing helicopters and planes. I know helicopters flying directly over your house, sometimes it can be scary, where you're going, what's going on here? But we're using them because they have the technology and they can clear areas that we would never be able to clear, especially at night. They're able to pick up, it is the most amazing thing. If you could see what they can see from that helicopter, especially at night, and the heat signatures, there's nowhere to hide from those helicopters if you're in a backyard. Do not try to enter the perimeter to check on loved ones. That's a difficult one, right? What if you're at work and your significant other's now locked in this perimeter? Where are you going to want to be? You want to check on your loved ones. But what you have to remember is the more resources we have to put from turning people away, that's less resources we have for checking for this person we need to find. Lehigh, that was a significant problem, and it broke my heart. So we shut down all of Stevens Creek at Foothill, going up towards the quarry. These people were calling their loved ones because they saw on the news. 5 minutes after the shooting, it was on the news. And when their loved ones didn't pick up, what do you think they were doing? They were doing what I probably would do and everyone else here. But you have to remember, they're racing down to the quarry to try to get information. What do you think that caused? Gridlock on Stevens Creek and Foothill. And what that slowed down was our ability to get more emergency vehicles over there, to try to clear those roadways so we can get more resources to get people help, to bring in ambulance, trucks, everything else. So please, please do not just go to the scene, even if it's an active shooter, and definitely do not go to the scene if you know that you're not going to be able to get through. The way to do that is a reunification center. So say you have a loved one that was involved, was in a building where an active shooter happened. We have it's basically a whole system we use. After we clear the building, we get everyone, and we want to get as much information we can. And you as a loved one, we will keep you informed through all those things the captain spoke about to say, this is going to be the reunification center. What that means is you can meet your loved ones there after they're done interviewing with us and giving us all the information, and we're checking to make sure they're fine. We will take them to that reunification center. So if an active shooter happens in a building, don't just wait outside that building because your loved one's not going to be there. We're going to bus them to a different location before we start those interviews. Do not place self or family in any potential danger. Help is coming. Especially if the more danger it is, the more resources we're going to throw at it. If it's a building and you're part of something that's an active shooter, I guarantee you, within 3 to 4 minutes, you will have more cops than you have ever seen in your life at that, coming in to address that threat. Remain calm. Help is on its way. Yes, sir.
Let's do this again. Can you ask the question again?
Frequently there'll be a helicopter circulating a spot because of an automobile accident or something like that, and the residents will say, they'll get on next door and start saying, who knows what's going on with this helicopter? What is the best way for them to find out rather than getting on next door? Or is next door the best place to ask that question?
Yeah, I would, no. Captain, I don't.
Certainly, I'd want to know what's going on in my neighborhood, right?
Next
I would
door.
recommend calling our non-emergency dispatch, 299-2311. Yeah, and say, listen, I live here, I see the helicopter, is there something that I need to be concerned about? as block leaders, when you get that information, share it. Don't hang on to it, share it. That way, a lot of our residents are informed at the same time, right? Again, we have to balance that white noise situation with a true emergency. So, are you asking this question because we just had that like an hour ago? Is that what you're asking? Well, it was about an hour and a half ago. Yeah, so earlier today, we had a helicopter flying around, was it Stevens Creek, Indiana area?
All over.
I don't know, about 700-800 feet, because we had a vehicle break-in. And listen, if we have this resource of a helicopter, why not use it, right? And so I understand that does sometimes concern our residents. So I think the best thing to do is be informed and call 299-2311 and ask, is there something I need to be concerned about? Again, if it is, we're either in the middle of sending some information via Alert SEC, or it's not something that is that big of an issue.
And sometimes there's just nothing going on in the county, and they happen to be over here, and a call will come. It could be an alarm call. And since we have this helicopter, they'll fly over and check the backyard and see. And it's really cool. What they can do when they fly over your house, what they can do with the technology they have, because usually our residential burglaries, how do they happen? They smash the back window, come in your house, take what they want, and it'll go out the front door. When that helicopter flies in the backyard to see if they can see anyone, what is going to happen on these cold days if you have a smashed window? There's going to be a heat signature coming out your window. And we'll know, because usually we'll send 2 deputies to an alarm call. And as soon as he gets on the radio and says, there's a heat signature coming out that back door, we ramp it up. We start sending multiple units over to start setting up that perimeter to see if we can catch that burglar. So it's a great tool. Yes?
Penny and I have lived in this area for 45 years, and I've called in 6 or 7 suspicious-looking things, acts, and they have not carted me off in a funny suit yet. So what I'm saying is, don't call for trivial things, but if you see something suspicious, like just what happened last week, there was a slender guy, blonde hair, wearing a hoodie at 6:30 at night. He walked to the corner, watched me watching him, hemmed and hawed there. He sounded like a druggie. And then finally, I kept watching him, and he started walking back the other way. I reported it to the sheriff, unfortunately, the next day, but I reported it. But what I'm trying to say is, don't be hesitant to call them. They want your eyes if you see something. But please, please do not call trivial things like my heater broke down, what do I do? People have done that before. Please count on them. They will not feel bad if you call them on something suspicious. Thank you.
Captain?
Do you have a question? Let me go here, and then we'll go there.
I just wanted to make a comment that Nextdoor is quite effective communication. Something like over 60% of the households in Monte Vista are on Nextdoor. Now, people aren't always checking it, but that has become increasingly an effective way of communicating. And for those of block leaders, encourage immediately, if there is a question, call the sheriff or send a message. I think we can be much more effective if we realize how pervasive that platform has become.
And I think it's really important. You guys are leaders of this whole eyes and ears of our community. And if you find out that information, you call our dispatch. Place it on Nextdoor Neighbor. I place it there so everyone knows. Because I can tell you, in our neighborhood where I live, as soon as the helicopter or anything's going on, my wife jumps on her phone to see what's going on. And it seems most everyone's like, hey, what's going on over here? Why is the helicopter flying over our house? I think they're chasing after, and then there's 15 or 16 different things. I'm like, why doesn't someone just call and find out? So if you get that information, post it and say, I found out from county communications, it's a burglar.
Sergeant Post, let me explain a little bit about Nextdoor, just so that we're all on the same page. So, has anybody received our messages from Nextdoor? Good. How many messages do you think we have received from you, from your neighborhoods? None. Because those conversations are contained within your group. And so when you're talking about a suspicious person in front of your house, should I call the police? Aren't they monitoring this thing? We're not. You should call the police. And so the communication, I agree. I think it's good. Certainly we have to filter through a lot of that information, but we don't see that. It's a one-way street for us. We are able to send information to you, but we can't see what you guys are talking about. Certainly if you respond to our message, we can see it. But the chatter that's going on, we don't see it unless somebody shares that information. And again, for those of you that have received our messages, a lot of those come from me personally. I sit there and I actually draft something for you, what I think is kind of important. But again, I don't like sending out a bunch of messages every week because then you're like, okay, what does the sheriff's office have to say this week? I want to make sure that when we send something, it's because there's an issue, something's going on, and we want you to pay attention to it. Next door. Let me start here because I believe there was a question here, and then since we're running a little bit ahead of time. Yeah.
I was wondering the rationale for silencing our phones when we're in a lockdown situation.
Good question. So the reason for silencing our phone, the best example I can give you. So say when we do drills at high schools or elementary schools. Think about that, especially our bigger ones. So what we do when we used to call them code red drills, which are active shooter drills, where they all learn to shelter in place or barricade and hide in their rooms. It is an eerie feeling. It's not very often that you can go on a school campus that's filled with children or young people and you can hear a pin drop. But every once in a while, as you're doing those drills, you'll hear some giggling going on. And it just naturally draws you to where that is. So that's what we say, try to be quiet. Try to be as quiet as possible. If it's not always you're going to be home when you're sheltering in place. What if you're on your cell phone and you're at the Quinlan Center and you get the alert, hey, anyone near the Quinlan Center, shelter in place. We're not expecting you to get in your car at that moment and drive all the way home if you live far away to shelter in place. It might behoove you to shelter in place somewhere here. So when we say shelter in place, it just doesn't always mean home. Does that answer your question? So what's great is put it on vibrate. If you don't know how to put it on vibrate, this is the time to learn how to, yeah. Well, if it's a landline, you're not going to have it with you.
Questions over here? I think there were a couple of...
Yeah, I have a very specific question regarding this group of people. What do each of you, as well as Laura and Stephanie and others representing the city, see as our role as block leaders within the context of what you're talking about tonight? And I would really welcome any specific suggestions or parameters you have to offer.
Go ahead. Our main goal is you are the leaders. Bring this information back to all the people you can of how they can help their community. If we take anything out of here, it's going to be the way we notify you through next door neighbor, through the SCC alert. That you could be the leaders of that, and within your groups, get that information out and keep people informed during these crises. Because what we found out is when people don't know, or we're not getting that information out, they're going to take it upon themselves to go out and seek that information. And sometimes that's not good at all, and they're putting themselves in danger.
I can use this. That's fine. Thank you. That's good. To get the information out, if I can add, of course, we're not putting anybody here in danger, right? I mean, you know that they turn to you because you have the experience in leading people. They know that you have the connections, you know where to go, how to navigate City Hall, how to find whatever you need to get. It's the important information, disseminating that, and continuing to be that link. And I love hearing from each one of you who's had the experiences to contact the sheriffs if you have any questions. So that, I think, is first and foremost. If anything, if you tell your neighbors that, because you want to get out of that. You want to create that capability for them to go directly to them when they need help and not go through you. Really, does that answer your question, Kathleen? So we will get this information out to you so you can disseminate it to your neighbors.
And I just want to add that we don't have an expectation that you're going to share anything. We understand our responsibility is to be able to share that information with anyone and everyone in the city. So we take that burden on. However, if you get the information, why not share it, man? If it's something that's worth sharing, share it. But don't take it the wrong way. We're not saying, hey, listen, from now on, you're the one that's going to end up, and this is on you. You're going to handle it. Let me know how it works out. No, that's not at all.
If you fail, we're coming after you. All right?
There's another question over here.
The city has a 311 app, and are you in any way associated with 311? I just pulled it up. There's no emergency, so that's totally, if the pipe is broken at the park, you call a city 311 app, not the sheriff.
Yeah, if there's an active shooter, don't call 311.
Yeah, and I think you're making reference to the app specifically, and when you're reporting things like homelessness in a certain area, abandoned cars, that kind of information, it does trickle down to us from the city. Eventually, yeah. If it's something we can help with, it does come to us, but certainly not for an emergency. Couple people. We're taking questions now because we're running a little bit ahead of time, which is good.
Yeah, I'm living here about the last for 32 years. Cupertino is quite a kind of nice place, but to be extreme, I just suggest. I have a question. One thing, one or two guys make a trouble. It might be enough to take care, right? What is the number of guys maximum you can expect with our current the law enforcement numbers here? If there is about a dozen guys show up for the gang or something like that, are we enough to cover that up?
It's echoing.
So the question was, sometimes we'll see a group of people committing crimes, maybe 12 people at a time. What kind of resources do we have in the city to be able to handle a crime that involves 12 people? Oh man, that is, it's like a great question to ask. And here's why I say it's a great question. The Sheriff's Office is the largest law enforcement organization in this county. We have the most police officers working in this county. A great majority of those people work in the custody setting. They work in the jail. However, the way we're structured is we have, 100 deputies, like right now, that we can summon. Because of the way the service level, I will say, the contract that we have with the city, it allows us to bring in resources when we need it, right? And so when we bring in those resources, of course the city has to pay. But if we don't need those resources, the city's not paying, right? And so I'll give you a great example. There's a small town just north of here, Los Altos Hills. We also provide services to them. They have a couple of deputies working during the day. We had a shooting there that is very unique, by the way. It never happens. A few years ago, in the first 30 minutes, it was during the day, we had 35 deputies there, right? And so your question of if we see a group of people, criminals coming in and doing something, I guarantee you the resources will be there. At any given time during the day or night, we have our brothers and sisters that work in San Jose, the east side, that work in the Morgan Hill, Gilroy area. We also have the transit deputies. And so at any given time, you can see 20, 30 deputies at one scene. And then I've gotten this question a lot. I didn't know we had that many deputies in Cupertino or Saratoga or whatever city. And that's because of the service model we have, where if we need the resources, we're going to get them. And of course, nothing's free. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
And another example too, just one more example, is Lehigh. That happened on a Wednesday at 4:25 in the morning. Within the first half hour, I had more than 50 deputies here. 50 deputies at that time of day. We just have unlimited resources. And just on the normal, pulling from here, I've been on a few calls, and the captain will usually call me going, whoa, what's going on? I'll have 20 deputies at one call. If we have a burglar and we're setting up a perimeter and it's between day shift and swing shift, we'll have 20 deputies there. Oh, that's a lot of deputies. Hard to find a city this size that can summon 20 deputies that quick. So it's kind of nice as a supervisor. Captain's giving me all the resources I need to tackle any problem.
And the city gives me all the resources I need to tackle the problem. So I have a question here. I have a question here.
Thank you, sir. Given the numbers and I'm just curious, what is the response time after you receive a call?
Another great question. These are all like management questions. These are
Yeah.
great questions, by the way.
She's a-
So the question is, what is our response time? Well, it depends. So we track priority 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to bore some of you, but priority 1 calls are those that are life and death type of calls. And for those, we have a 5-minute response time. I think it's 5 or 6. I don't say 5. In other words, when that call comes in, we need to be at that house, at that location within 5 minutes, if it's a life and death type call. And I'm happy to say we've met that this past year. The priority 2 calls are those calls where you show up home and somebody unfortunately broke into your house. And it's not necessarily a life and death type of call, but you maybe don't know if someone's inside the house, right? And for those calls, I want to say 9 minutes is our response time. And again, we've met that. And then we have the priority 3 calls, which are those calls that are, you come out of your dinner, and somebody broke into your car. And obviously, they're not in the car. They took off. And so that's like a priority 3 call. And I want to say 14 minutes for that. I may be off by a minute. But that's the one area that I track religiously to make sure that we provide the best service to the city. Yeah, it's a good question, though. Yeah. Oh, over here.
So you said that everything on Nextdoor generally doesn't percolate to the sheriff's office. So my question was, if we have these feeds, camera feeds, and you detect some kind of unusual activity, suspicious activity, how do we send that out to the law enforcement, basically?
So, excellent question. Excellent question. So it depends what we're talking about, like video. So sometimes we'll get video of after the crime, and someone will go, look, go get them. I have video of them. And the difficult part, what you have to understand, we can look at one person and go, oh, if we don't know that person, we haven't dealt with that person, or they're from a different area, it's more difficult to locate. But say at your house now, you have the Ring phone or you have the drop cams inside your house, and you get an alert on your phone, and you look at your phone and it's live time, and there's someone inside your house, and you call us, our percentage of catching these people are very, very high. We love it. You'll see my deputies get excited. We're finally going to catch them. Because we will catch them, because you're giving us a live update going, there's 3 of them, they're in our living room now they're going out the side, they're going out this side, and we're just setting up our whole perimeter, and we're going to catch them. One year I was the day shift sergeant, and I think we set a record. We caught, I think, 8 burglars, different burglaries that year, which is significant, especially on days. And I would say out of those 8, 7 of them were from video cameras and the people calling in. The ones that are frustrating are, oh, my stupid thing's alerting again, I'll look at it later. And then 20 minutes later, you get around to it and look at your phone and go, hey, there's someone in my house. And we're going, we could have caught them. You had them. So if you have that alert system, it might be a pain to keep on checking it, but check it. That's how we catch criminals. How do you share that video feed? I don't know.
There's a couple of ways to do that. One is call us. We'll have a deputy stop by and pick it up. We also have an email account. You ready to write this down? It's WVTIPS It's WV, West Valley, WV, TIPS. So it's West Valley Tips, WV, TIPS, at sccgov.org. I will repeat that. If you have any tips, any video, any information that you don't necessarily think is associated to a crime, or you just want to share it with us, you don't want to call us, whatever, it's email this account. It's WVTIPS at sccgov.org. Okay? And so we get that directly. And that's a good question. But certainly, and I think most of our residents just call us, and a deputy will stop by and look at it and say, okay, I'll take it from you, because it may be associated to something that we're looking for.
One other thing I forgot to mention up here, I kind of skipped over it. Do not approach deputies if they're on a perimeter, and especially if they have their guns out. This is funny now, but it wasn't. This has happened a few times to me. So I'm sitting on a perimeter as a young deputy. Yeah, that was a while ago. It was before I qualified for the senior center, what I found out. But I'm sitting on a perimeter and I have my gun out, and I look over and a resident's coming over going, should I be worried? Is it dangerous? If the deputy has his gun out and he's wearing a helmet and a plate carry, it's probably not safe. And you shouldn't be approaching them. You should think about going inside your house, because it could be that 15 minutes that the captain was talking about, that we haven't got that shelter in place message out. But if you see deputies with their gun, don't go towards them. Go away from them. Because usually we're trying to circle within. And I'm not even kidding. You're thinking now, you're going, oh, that's right. It happens. People will come up and, hey, yeah.
Another question?
We talked about 911 texting, right? What if we have a tip or we have a suspicious person or something, which is, you don't want to kind of call 911 for that, but we just want to let you know this is what it is. Is there a number we could text?
I don't think with texting, you could just call. And the number is, the captain gave it a little earlier, it's the 408-299-2311. That goes to our dispatch. And if you don't want a deputy to come over your house and you're not at home, but say you're driving to work and you saw something suspicious and you don't have time to wait around and you call, that deputy can give you a call. They can call you. It doesn't mean if you're in a rush and you can't stick around, and you could give that information to the deputy and they could pass that information out and do what we call patrol checks. So by all means, if it's something suspicious or something that happened there or something you want to report, give us a call. The 911 text is if for emergency, like I need help now and I can't talk. Any other questions? Okay, the captain here is going to talk about Alert SCC.
So one of the best ways for us to communicate with you is using Alert SCC. This is the platform I want to say that all cities are using in this county now. If you go back a few years, Cupertino was using the Cupertino alert system. You guys remember that? And certainly that was effective. The county was able to purchase Alert SCC and provide it to cities for free. Anything for free is good, right? I'll take anything for free. So the city doesn't have to pay for an emergency alert system. Alert SCC is your emergency alert system. We have cards in the back that explain how to sign up to receive messages on your cell phone through Alert SCC. And honestly, it's very simple. It's text your zip code to 888-777. I mean, that's it. If you text your zip code to 888-777, you're guaranteed to get information through Alert SCC. Now, what about if I don't sign up to Alert SCC, right? I get it. We get a lot of text messages, a lot of emails, a lot of messages. I just don't want to deal with it. If we have a critical incident, such as an active shooter, and it's impacting your neighborhood, we will still get a hold of you. Right? With today's technology, we will send a message to the closest tower. We'll basically outline the area that we want a message to go to, and we will utilize the same system that the Amber Alert and the weather system, the National Weather Service, and all these other agencies use. It's a federal system. We'll still get a hold of you. And so, although that's something that we rarely do, it is something that we will do in the event that we have an active, some type of threat in your neighborhood. Short of that, again, I strongly recommend that you sign up for the Alert SEC. You text your zip code to 888-777. And again, we don't, some organizations send out a lot of information on Alert SEC. I know because I have a few on my phone. And I'm getting these messages all the time about, you know, road will be closed between this hour and that hour. And I'm like, okay, I really need to know this. The Sheriff's Office, we're not going to send you information unless it's something we really want you to look at. And so the Public Safety Commission has been tracking how many people have signed up on Alert SEC. And I'm proud to say that this last year, we saw a significant increase on the amount of residents that are signing up, which is good because it connects us better, right? And it allows us to get that information out to you. That's the one thing I guarantee you we're going to utilize when we have that incident in your neighborhood. And again, it's not just for critical incidents, it's for when we're searching. Let's say it's 9 o'clock at night and we have a burglar that just broke into your neighbor's house or maybe neighbor down the street. And we have this large perimeter. And now we have the helicopter, we have dogs, we have 20 deputies, a bunch of patrol cars everywhere. Sergeant's going to tell me, hey, this is what we're doing. And I'm going to say, well, the residents are going to want to know what you're doing in their backyards. And certainly with the helicopter, so let's do this. Let's start working on sending out that Alert SEC notification. And so then we talk about what we want to put on there. Then we send that message to our dispatcher. Dispatcher will send it out to you, and you'll get it on your phone. Short of that, you may not get it. Going back to what's our role, if you get the message, you know, feel free to share it with your neighbors. Sheriff's Office is looking for this person. You know, a lot of times we also use it because we do have residents that go missing. We have residents that have mental health issues, and so whether they're small or senior, we get them all the time. And so for us to get that message out to help us find these people, Alert SEC. We use that all the time.
And we've used this in reverse 911 with great success on missing people. We had one of the most beautiful success stories I've seen, and that was by utilizing all the resources we had. We did reverse 911, Alert SEC, and we also used our helicopter, where they flew over low and did a slow message to everyone. Hey, we are searching for an elderly person. Here's the description. Please call 911 if you see him. And actually, we were able to find him through the call from the alert where they were able to find him.
So we have about 5 minutes or so. Every time I give this presentation, whatever it is, right, you guys know, I'm talking and talking and talking, and before you know it, it's like an hour and a half. It's like, oh my God, we got to wrap up. We've made this presentation brief because we wanted to take time to answer your questions. We kind of did that as we were moving along. So we had about 5 minutes. If you have any questions about anything at all, please feel free to ask us. This would be the right time. And I do want to clarify one little thing because I wanted to make sure that I gave you the exact information. So I talked about priority calls and our response times to emergencies. Our priority 1 calls, those are the life and death emergency type calls. This past year, we had 61 of those calls. Average time was a little over 4.5 minutes. Our mandated, I call it a mandated, response time is 5 minutes, like I said. Our priority 2 calls, we had 4,252 calls. And as I said, our target time, what I call required time, is 9 minutes. We made it in a little less than 7 minutes. And then our priority 3 call, I lied, it wasn't 14 minutes, it's 20 minutes. And we made it a little over 11.5 minutes. Again, I think our response times are pretty good. And with that being said, again, any questions at all, this is your opportunity. If you want us to sign off a ticket or something, let us know. Right. Oh.
I did have a question, just out of curiosity. The substations that you have, like I know there's one on Stevens Creek, and then there's one further down at Main Street. I don't see them always manned, so to speak. So how are they used, out of curiosity?
So those aren't the typical substation like our main station. What we want is basically to have, there's certain types of reports deputies need to sit in front of a computer and actually do the reports. And what we try to encourage is our deputies to stay in the areas that they work. So what we try to do is we call them substations. So we'll have a place where they can actually sit down, where it's safe. They don't have to worry about what's going around them. And that's where we have those little, like one's here at the Quinlan. We have one over on Stevens Creek, like you were saying, De Anza, over by the hotel. They were kind enough to give us one. And then we have another one at Main Street. So you'll typically see our deputies do that, where they can get out and not try to creep over to write the report, and they can get out and actually write those reports. So, what's that?
So where is the main station?
Main station is De Anza and Prospect. So that's where you go. That will be, but that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That's when it's manned.
Question over here.
And not on holidays. Must be nice.
I have a surveillance camera in my house, and if I'm out of country or out of town, I set an alarm on, and if I receive alert, where should I call? If I'm not in the town, it could be out of country, it could be out of state. That's number one question. The second is, if I get a message, well, the first question is actually another condition. I can check the video and see someone in the house, some stranger. What number should I call?
911.
Even I am the other state?
If you're out of state, then you can call. You can still call the 408-299-2311 number. If you're here, like around, and so if you're out of the area, call that number, the 408-299-2311.
And what happens if I'm in Canada or in other country?
408-299-2311.
Now, another condition is if I see the message, but I cannot connect it and see what's happening in the house. So I suspect somebody break in, could be a false alarm. What should I do? Can I call someone?
If you think someone's breaking into your house, absolutely, give us a call. Give us a call and we'll send deputies over. You know what we're hoping? We hope we get there and it was a false alarm and no one broke into your house and stole anything. And if that's what happened, we're going to be happy. If there's someone inside your house and we catch them, we're going to be really happy.
When someone breaks in the house, does law enforcement now rely on mostly video as opposed to when we had our house broken into? I was expecting them to take fingerprints because we didn't have video, and they said, but the fingerprints weren't taken or anything.
So I could tell you, because I review all of our reports, when it comes to burglary, we will try to get fingerprints. But a lot of these people, as we're seeing on video, are wearing gloves. Another source that we get, if we get what's called wet evidence. So basically, if they cut themselves while shattering your window and going in and we see blood, we will take DNA samples. So the best evidence we can get is the only evidence we have. That's what I'll say. So if we have video, that's great. If we can get a fingerprint, better. If we get DNA, we got them. We've had ones where sometimes they're not in the system yet with fingerprints. Just a real quick story, I know we don't have any time. We had 20-something burglaries in Los Altos Hills. And we had fingerprints on every single one, and we know it was the same person because the fingerprints were kind of alike, and it was the same MO how they were getting in the house. And it wasn't in the system. 3 months later, we get a hit. And we found the person because the reason the fingerprint hits weren't coming up, they weren't in the system. Well, they got pulled over for drunk driving, and when they got booked into jail and they got fingerprinted, boop, it alerted, and we were able to tie 20 burglaries to this people. 20 residents. So It works if we get the fingerprints, and all my people, they better be dusting for prints. But if we get a video, and we see the video, and we could see it clearly that the bad people are wearing gloves, there's no use throwing this dust all over your house, because the dust doesn't come off easy. Does that make sense?
One last question. Anybody? One last question? No? Way in the back there?
I got it.
Okay. This will be our last question, right?
Very last. This is going to be the best question yet.
No pressure.
Thank you. I just had a question about two things I didn't understand. I'm not sure what is a reverse 911 call. And also, when you say priority 1 emergency, what I think of is like a medical emergency, like a cardiac arrest. Are you talking non-medical, where it's not an ambulance?
So the dispatchers do a really good job of sending the medical emergencies to the medical board. Those are the fire department, ambulance type calls. So the dispatchers are, if they determine it is a medical emergency, priority 1, it wouldn't go to us. It goes to us as an information only, but we're going to respond. I mean, we're not doctors, we're not medical professionals. So I'm just talking about strictly crime related. And in terms of your first question, the reverse 911, what that is our ability to push out information to your home phone. So those of us that still have a home phone, we can make it ring and give you information. It's a recording that you'll get. And we're not seeing a lot of those anymore.
And just so you know, on SCC Alert, you could also sign up your regular home, your landline, and email.
Yes, exactly. So on behalf of Sheriff Smith and all the men and women of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office, we want to thank you very much for what you do for this community. We want to thank Laura, Stephanie, the city of Cupertino, and everyone who makes this city one of the safest cities in the state of California. With that being said, Laura, it's all yours. Thank you.
Let's give a warm thank you. Thank you, Captain, Sergeant.
One other thing. So I work Tuesday through Friday, and I work 1:30 to 11:30 at night. If you see me, come up and say hi. Seriously, come up. I love it. When someone goes, hey, I saw your one presentation. I had additional questions. By all means. You'll see my email up there. Email me. If you have any additional questions that we weren't able to cover, feel free to email me. I will email you back when I get to work. I don't bring my work phone home with me, but when I get to work.
Thank you so much. And this is a group that will say hi. So thank you. The captain said he will share the slides with me. Yes? So I will be disseminating that back to you. I want to thank the City Channel, Robert in the back behind the lens. He's also going to be putting together a recording of tonight, and so we can share that with our neighbors. So thank you, block leaders. There's some feedback sheets on your tables. If you would please take a moment to fill it out, let us know what really worked for you, what resonated for you, and maybe anything on the future would you like to see. Please remember to leave your name tags here so we can use them for next time. And finally, if you could please help out with the plates and cups and all the stuff that you used while you were here. Plates and cups can be composted. Forks and knives cannot. We've got to trash them. Okay, so again, thank you so much on behalf of the city of Cupertino. We look forward to seeing you in March or in April's appreciation. Thank you.